War leaves behind bodies, cold wars leave behind ghosts. And of all the ghosts whispered about in the intelligence files of the 20th century, none looms larger than the one who may have never existed at all, Perseus. He didn't make headlines, he didn't fire a single bullet, but he may have done more to shape the balance of global power than any general, or he might just be a myth. To understand Perseus, you need to understand the paranoia of the Cold War, and the lengths both sides would go to in order to win a war fought in the shadows. It was the 1940s. The world was still reeling from the devastation of World War II. Cities lay in ruins, economies shattered, and two superpowers emerged, the United States and the Soviet Union. They were allies in war, but quickly became adversaries in peace. The United States had done the impossible, split the atom. And with that came the bomb. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, a warning to the world. For a brief moment, America held unmatched power, but not for long. In 1949, the Soviet Union detonated its first nuclear bomb, codenamed First Lightning. It stunned American intelligence. They hadn't expected the Soviets to catch up for another 5 to 10 years. Questions exploded in Washington. How did they do it so fast? The answer seemed clear. There were spies inside the Manhattan Project, America's top-secret program to develop the atomic bomb. And so began a frenzy of investigations, arrests, and, well, a search for a phantom. The codename Perseus first emerged in debriefings and decrypted Soviet communications. United States analysts came to believe Perseus was, without a doubt, one of the Soviet Union's most valuable atomic spies. He allegedly operated out of Los Alamos, the nerve center of nuclear research during the war. Perseus was described as young, idealistic, fluent in English and educated in American institutions. He wasn't driven by greed, but by ideology. He reportedly believed no single nation should wield apocalyptic power alone, that the United States, fresh off its demonstration of force, would use its nuclear monopoly to control the world. He was, in a twisted way, a balance keeper. Some accounts claimed he was recruited while studying physics at a prestigious university. Others suggest he was already a committed communist, embedded in scientific circles as a loyal agent of the Soviet cause. Some said he passed drawings, formulas, and classified notes to couriers in New York and Boston. Others insisted he never left Los Alamos, but the trail was always cold. The United States caught Klaus Fuchs, a German-born physicist who had slipped secrets to Moscow. They arrested David Greenglass, a machinist who worked on the bomb's trigger. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were convicted and executed. But even with those captures, there was something missing. A deeper source, a more embedded presence. Someone who wasn't just a messenger, but a true insider. Perseus. The Venona Project, a top-secret US initiative to decode Soviet telegrams, began to reveal fragments of that hidden world. Between 1943 and 1980, Venona intercepted thousands of messages. Some named specific spies, others used codenames. One kept recurring, not always directly but unmistakably an implication, a mole inside Los Alamos never caught. And that's where Perseus took on legend status. Over the decades, researchers tried to unmask him. Some thought he was Oscar Sobora, an American physicist who defected to the USSR. Others pointed to Ted Hall, a brilliant but conflicted young scientist who admitted years later to giving bomb designs to the Soviets, claiming he did so to preserve world peace. Hall fits the profile almost perfectly, but the Soviets always referred to him by another codename. Was Perseus a composite? A deliberate smokescreen to hide the identities of multiple spies? Or was he, as some believe, entirely fictional, a Soviet invention to create confusion and protect real agents? Even Soviet defectors couldn't agree. Vasily Mitrokhin, who smuggled KGB files to the West, said Perseus never existed. Yet other former intelligence officers swore he was real and remained unknown. Some theories suggest Perseus operated into the 1950s. Others say he escaped detection by leaving the country. or that he was protected by high-level sympathizers. But there's no hard proof. Still, the impact was undeniable, because someone gave the Soviets what they needed to level the nuclear playing field. Someone shortened the arms race. Someone gave rise to the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. Mad! The chilling logic that if both sides could annihilate each other, neither would dare to strike first. Whether he existed or not, Perseus shaped that reality. He became the personification of Cold War fear, that your friend might be a traitor, that your ally might be a double agent, that in a world of secrets the truth was never safe. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't invade borders. He passed no laws. Yet his fingerprints, real or imagined, are on the triggers that pointed toward Armageddon. That's why Perseus still matters. Because his story asks hard questions. What drives someone to betray their country? Is loyalty to humanity greater than loyalty to a flag? And how much do we really know about the forces that shaped our world? In fiction, Perseus has taken on a life of his own. Nowhere is this more evident than in video games, particularly in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, where Perseus is reimagined as a powerful Soviet operative orchestrating a vast and complex plan to undermine the West. In the game, he infiltrates American intelligence, manipulates nuclear arsenals, and nearly succeeds in sparking global chaos. The fictional Perseus is ruthless, strategic, and terrifyingly effective, a mastermind of deception and disruption. Players encounter a world where his influence spans decades, and his legacy lives on through hidden networks and ideological pawns. But the game doesn't claim to be a documentary. It builds on mystery, on the ambiguity surrounding Perseus's existence, and turns him into a Cold War spectre with modern implications. It captures the fear of an unseen enemy who doesn't just win battles, but rewrites reality. Comparing that depiction to the historical record, the lines blur. While there's no evidence that the real Perseus, if he existed, manipulated global events to the degree shown in Black Ops, the idea that a single agent could destabilize the world isn't far-fetched. The very suggestion of a spy buried deep within America's scientific elite was enough to fuel congressional hearings, intelligence reforms, and a near-constant state of suspicion for decades. Perseus in Black Ops is what Cold War nightmares were made of. Not just a traitor, but a symbol of how fragile trust is between nations, within governments, among allies, and how even a whisper of betrayal can change the course of history. In fact, the game subtly mirrors real Cold War operations, from CIA-backed coups to KGB sabotage, weaving threads of truth into its narrative fabric. The Perseus storyline in Black Ops Cold War taps into actual fears of nuclear blackmail and covert ideological subversion. Some missions even mimic real tactics used by Soviet agents, such as disinformation campaigns, identity theft, and the weaponization of diplomatic relations. This blend of reality and fiction creates a psychological effect that historians call speculative memory, a zone where players, viewers, and even readers begin to ask, what if this was true? What if there really was a Perseus? The uncertainty becomes the point. And with Black Ops 7 on the horizon, Cold War conspiracy lore is once again entering pop culture. Developers have hinted at a return to darker, more historically inspired storylines. Whispers of hidden files, deep cover agents, and resurgent threats suggest that the legend of Perseus, real or fictional, is far from over. Because sometimes the scariest villains aren't the ones we fight face to face. They're the ones we never find. So whether Perseus was a man, a myth, or something in between, he remains a mirror, a reflection of everything we fear about the invisible war. And a reminder history is shaped just as much by the ghosts we never catch as by the heroes we remember.